And boom, and we're live. Old school, back with my man. How you doing tonight, Roma, man? It's been a while since we've had a conversation.
Jungle is massive. Big up to you, Tim. Kicking it old school.
Old school, man. It's been a while since we had a one-on-one, man. Well, look, before we go any further, man, congratulations on the album, dude. I know we want to go balls into talking about it tonight, but congratulations on it. And the very first thing I've got to ask you about, which is a completely separate one, the artwork. I'm going to start from the artist's perspective, man. Tell me all about that artwork, how you did it, what was the inspiration, the usual questions.
It was sort of the art for that. I basically made the same way I made all the other old computer digital pictures that I used to do. Um, but really, I didn't have. I pretty much the album was finished, or at least the main part of it was done. I was still at the end stage of like mastering it, mixing it down, and I was like, well, if I'm going to put this out, obviously I'm going to need some sort of artwork. And the idea it had never come to my mind of what I wanted, which is sort of how I usually do things. It's the more I try to like, if I were to picture an image and say I want this to be my album cover, it would never come out the way I wanted it to, and I would usually end up not being happy with it. And that's sort of the way, when I do music, when I do film, when I do anything, if I really set out with like this hardcore goal of this is what it has to look like. If it doesn't look like this, it's over. I can't. I For some reason I'm not the type of artist that can do that. So I have to just sort of play around with everything. Just throw all the elements in there. Um, just use um, the I guess I want to say the artist's eye, the artist's vision. Like it was a that picture was a oh, it was an old movie poster. It was a part of an old movie poster, and it was some God. I'd have to look it up to find it, but it was just some like shitty like Terrence Hill like 70s type B action movie, and one of the pictures, or I think the center of it had like this picture of a guy, and then on top of it there was a airplane flying over it, like a small one man airplane flying over him. And I was for some reason just that one square. If I look at it and I'm like, if I could crop that and then sort of go from there, we'll see what happens. And I wasn't planning on the first time trying to make it have that be the album cover. I was just like, we'll fuck around, we'll see what happens. Then next thing you know, I really, really started to like it, and it sort of started to click and make sense, and it looks completely different than what it started as, and at the same time, I think it's perfect for the album. I mean, it's a great weird picture. It fits on my desktop background, and
Now, I mean, I have to sort of obviously you've been through some tough experiences. I don't know how much you want to go into that, but how much of what you've been through in the last year has influenced this particular album? Was this something you've been working on for a while? I mean, I'm fascinated because I particularly know, and I know there's a lot of real issues you've gone through, and I can hear when I personally listen to it, I can hear all the reflections. So I want to know how much of the events of your life in the particular last year had anything to do with it, or was this something that you've been building up for a while anyway?
well, I was working on the hip hop album with Wighead. I was working on the instrumental album, the Thumbnobulist, and that's you knew how intent I was on that, and how many I have so many songs already going for it. And then like when I sprang the album on you, I just kind of came out and said like, hey, in the middle of making this album, I actually ended up making a completely different album that just sort of fell out of nowhere. And um, I don't know, like you said, there was some stuff going on, and somebody actually approached me, which the usual way now of how people can get in touch with you is through social media. So uh, a man named Rob Korinsky, RobKorenSky. You can find him on SoundCloud, Twitter, Facebook. He basically found me on Twitter, went through the stuff on my Bandcamp, and just kind of, uh, sent me a message and said, hey, he wanted instrumentals. He was wondering how much I charged, which I charge considerably lower than anybody else out there. Which I don't know. For me, it's not about the money. I had so much fun doing it, and basically, I didn't have anything that I was finished to send to him, but because that's what people want when they say, hey, I hear you make beats. Like, let me hear something. And I'm like, well, I don't make beats to just throw in a backlog. Like that's not what I do. I make things to um I don't know, I guess what I'm saying is if I'm going to put the time and effort into starting something and then actually finishing it, I want that finished product to be somewhere, to have somewhere to go, not just to be like, yeah, I just made another beat, maybe I'll sell that and just add it to my collection of beats. I really don't like doing that. I like to know where a finished product is going. So all I really had for him was like really early rare demos of um, a bunch of songs that I had started from. I tried to look it up on my computer to see how long ago I started them. It didn't give me the date, but I mean, some of these were 6 to 8 years old. They had been started. Something. The drums might have been there, or like the melody might have been there, or just something that I liked well enough to hold on to and to just save and be like, you know what, if maybe someday somebody will want it, or maybe someday I want it, and we'll find something to do with it. So those are what I would throw in the backlog. I wouldn't actually finish any of them. They would just be, the pieces of whatever. And so I ended up sending him. Oh man, let me look it up real quick because some of the stuff I actually do have backed up and saved still. But I sent him a good number of beats, and so I didn't know really what to expect as far as what he was going to say about them because uh, they were just sort of like bits and pieces, and I'm trying to explain, don't take these too seriously because there's a lot of work that I would want to do to them, a lot of fixing up, mastering, EQing. But I sent him 18 overall, and he how many did he get? 8. I think he ended up doing 8. I worked on a couple other ones besides those 8, and had sent them to him. He basically wanted to reserve it for a different project, which I was totally okay with. But yeah, so out of the 18, he picked. He came back right away with a bunch of them and said, start working on these. I'm like, okay, cool. And I would pick one. I would go to him and I would say, what kind of feelings are you going for? Just throw some words at me. Let me know, which direction you want it to go into. And he would throw out some words. I would say, okay, he knows my style. He's been on my band camp. He knew the sort of cinematic way that I compose my music, and basically from there I was like, you know what you're getting into, which is at the same time you don't know what you're getting into because it's going to be weird and crazy and different, and no song is going to sound the same. But at the same time, so I'm making these songs for one project, and in doing that, it was in my mind that these have to. Well, he actually wanted them to flow together in general, and I said how he wanted basically one song to end and then sort of freely flow into the next song. And I was like, all right, well, we'll work on that when he gets his stuff done. So when he gets his stuff done, he's going to come back to me, give me all the final stuff, and then I'm going to make the instrumentals flow into each other, which will be totally different because I don't even know, I don't know what order he's going to do the album in because, his track listing is going to be different than mine, which, um, I don't know the names of the songs, the order of the songs. I don't know. Those all just came. It did take a little bit of work of just sitting there and listening to it, trying to figure out which song goes where, what the song should be. The songs went through multiple title changes. I don't know. There's just a lot of work, and yeah, everything went into it. All the emotion of it's hard to do something artistic and not have the things in your life sort of play into that and to show up somewhere. Um, I don't know. I guess unless you're doing it like strictly for money, where they're telling you, we want happy, smiley, shiny things. We don't want your life in there. Like, I mean, most art is that it's going to have the reflection of what's going on in your life, that sort of thing. But yeah, so he wanted the album to flow freely together, and in that sense, I'm like, once again, my cinematic styling was basically, yeah, just trying to create a, a piece as a whole that would have all these individual songs, but at the same time, it feels like an album when you listen to it, even without the lyrics on it. And I think I did that really well. I'm pretty proud of that. Yeah, I think the album. Yeah, I think it's great as a whole. It's front to back. Um, I don't know. It just feels like one solid piece. And then there was actually the one beat, the grass is taller than the trees, which I had sent to the Ceiling Demon, along with another one, which for some reason that I didn't think that song. I don't know. I think I told Sai I don't think that more drum and bass one that I had sent. I don't think I'll ever be finished with that one. It's just it never sounds up to uh, my standards. I'm constantly messing with it, and then I just sort of throw it back in the pile, and I'm like, I'm fucking sick of hearing it. Like it's not coming out the way I want it to. Uh, but no, the grass is taller than the trees. Actually, that one was started, at least 8 years ago, and that's a great beat. I love it. I had the war drums in there. I had the piano in there. I had the sort of Japanese instruments. That was all the first things that I had for it. And like I said, that was 8 years old. Like, man, I'm really glad I saved that one. But it was really nice, doing the album because Rob Korinsky sort of, made me go back and find all these old tracks that I had done that I had loved and I had, obviously liked enough to keep and hold on to my backstash. And he basically, made me get off my ass and finish them. So, uh, you know, half a decade old songs, and there they are. Like, so
Well,
props to him for that.
man, from a perspective, I mean, the first thing that's got to be said is that the whole thing is just begging for visuals, dude. I mean, I'm thinking you got to put either one track or the whole thing, because it's like you say. I mean, it's almost like having yin without the yang. I mean, it's great to listen to, and it's like great. I can listen to it and I can visualize, and great. It's brilliant for me. I mean, it's, as I say, it inspires me to do artwork. That's great. But I'm thinking, man, I know I know there's a, that element of your side that's the beats and all that. But man, from as I always say, to me, the one I always hold you up on the highest esteem for is your filmmaking. So I'm thinking, dude, this is just begging out for some great Ryan Martin sort of visuals on it, man.
Yeah, I don't even know because they were so, you know, obviously there is no story to the actual album, but the name of the album suggests obviously where the sun meets the land. That obviously gives some sort of creativeness to it, and then once you get into the song names, I think those really start to, for me anyway, it painted the picture that I wanted it to paint. Now, people don't know the song names, they don't know the album name. That's not going to matter because I wasn't trying to instill visions onto people, which is I don't know. I feel like sometimes I make music for people who make music, or I create for those that also create, not for the typical mainstream audience. I want to my stuff. I seem to get more compliments from people who do things artistically than people who don't do things artistically, and it's I don't because obviously instrumental album people don't listen to a lot of instrumental albums. And I'm with that one especially, obviously Rob was going to do lyrics over them, so that kind of made it moot for me to do lyrics over them. But um, I really wouldn't have wanted to. It's I think it tells its story. on its own. I think artistically, creatively, I think it really. I just wanted it to be open. I wanted people to take their own experiences from it, or to see what they see. That it's like thinking music. You have to um, you kind of have to do work. It's like reading a book. You do have to sit there and shut up and shut off and get into it. And then once you get into it, your head starts going this way. Ideas are flying. You're thinking of this. You play one note, and all of a sudden it brings up a memory in somebody of, something they haven't thought about in years. And there is just so much power in simple, basic music. And I think that a lot of that gets lost nowadays. But that's what I was trying to do with Where the Sun Meets the Land. Sort of bring it back to basics, and just the free expression, and having the audience sort of figure it out for themselves. Kind of the old school, sort of abstract, artistic way. But as far as visuals, I mean, I don't know. Let me look at some of these song titles real quick,
Well, while you're
because
doing
I don't.
that, I mean, I was saying, well, while you're doing that, I mean, I think you tapped upon something here that we've spoken upon before, but when you mentioned about no words, no lyrics, no distractions, it's great to just allow that your mind to almost just to bend a bit and to start to flow a bit, which is great for creative people. Now we live in this, your side of the world is no different from mine, man. We live in a world where everything's instant and everything's bombastic and in your face and stuff. And this is I think it's going to be a step we're going to have to take as particularly creative people, is learning this whole thing of just stepping back and taking time out, which is what I love about what you've done, because you tapped into this whole thing of like not just doing a 4 minutes. Here's a bang 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 chorus next track. You're actually playing with the thing now. Like I say, I've always loved this. That's why I listen to from sleep, which is really guitar bass driven music, to what you're doing, like even to piano music. I love listening to orchestral music because I love that idea. When I'm creating, I don't want distractions. Now, don't get me wrong, I can create to things that have got words in it, but on a general one. And it seems to you, like you said, it's always struck me as like, why isn't this a vein that more people are going down? And I think it's just because we live in this culture of everything got to be instant and bombastic, and ultimately the things that are going to last, as I always say, I mean, we still listen to classical pieces of music now. We still remember film scores. We still remember those, the intrinsic pieces of music that the words just get lost in, because words can be easily, how language changes and stuff like that. So I'm always fascinated about why more particularly creative people don't go down this line of doing an instrumental, because there are a few people that do it, but not to me. It seems it's not a vein that's as tapped as it should be.
I mean, it sort of depends on I don't know. I guess just who you're talking about specifically. But one thing I do know about, obviously being in hip hop and being a producer, one of the things, I've been doing it forever. I've been studying it forever. I've been, playing around with it and experimenting with it forever. And one of the things that I think you can, that's kind of what you can get from Where the Sun Meets the Land, because, I was going through the old emails that I had with Rob, and he the first time we started talking was when he bought the first one that I had actually had done and was already on my Bandcamp, was back in end of February 26th. And then what was it? Let's see, I got an email end of March. The first one I sold him was April 9th. So from the end of February, I basically at the end of February, he came to me and said he wanted some music. I started going through all my things, cleaning up, those 18 tracks that I said, and sent those to him. And uh, was it okay? That was at March 25th. So he got those on like March 25th. So about a month later, I had sent him about 18 demos, or not 18. I sent in like 2 or 3 batches, I think. So maybe I sent him 5, 6, 7 or 8, something like that. and then he came back, saying he wanted these. I started working on one. The first one I had done on April 9th. So that's what, like maybe a month and a half. So after a month and a half, I had the first one done. A week later, I had sent them the next one. Looks like 8 days after that, I sent him another one. And meanwhile, I was working on the other demos, sending him the other demos after that. And even, I was super surprised at how fast I was getting, finishing them. And, he definitely was because, as somebody, like I said, who's in hip hop, who's in beats, I know how long motherfuckers take to do shit. But, and you know that too, in the art world that, I guess artists might be some of the biggest procrastinators out there. But we're busy people. But so I was really cranking them out. I was getting them done. They went through so many stages. Lots of work went into them. And the thing is people, like I said, being in hip hop and being a producer, a lot of these people don't play instruments. Beat makers that like really can't play piano. And I'm not saying, I didn't take lessons. I took a few classes at a community college, but other than that, like I'm all self-taught. But at the same time, I guess I'm smart enough to be able to manipulate it to make it sound like I'm amazing at it. um, but no, so you have to learn about instrumentation, and a lot of these beat makers don't know about instruments. They can't play instruments. A lot of these rappers that are coming out can't rap, don't know how to rap. They are learning how to do it as they're doing it. And, same with the beat makers. But, they'll play, they got a, boom and kick, boom and snare. They put one synth line over it, and all of a sudden it's like, whoa. And clearly that is not Where the Sun Meets the Land is about. And, but yeah, I don't know. But I was gonna say is like looking over the titles of the songs. You were talking about visuals. It would just sort of be, I don't know, probably hard for me to do a video just because I would want a bigger budget video. Just because I think the album would need something like that. I would want it to look like the album cover. There's got to be at least like one broken down, rustic looking airplane.
Well, on this one, I mean, and I'd like to hear your sort of thoughts on this. Obviously, that you put these out now; they're out on Bandcamp, which is another one you did. A strange one. You put them all out on YouTube, which was a bit of a left field step for you, my friend. But on that one, if someone was to listen to it, I'd like to hear your thoughts on this because I've talked to a few bands and creative people, and they've got different perspectives. But if someone was to listen to that, and I'll take myself, and I was to go away and go, okay, I love that. I'm going to be inspired by that. Take that away, maybe do some visuals, and put that up on YouTube. What are your thoughts on that? Are you kind of like, yeah, great, that's out in the open commons, so great, you can play with it and bounce it around, or is there kind of some sort of resonance like, I'm not sure that someone's going to be, and I can understand both sides because I've spoken to bands who have both angles, and so I'm fascinated to what your thoughts on this, because if you don't do something visually, dude, it's going to happen. Either I will, or I'm telling you what's going to happen, and we speak about this often, a lot on private messages and stuff. With the virtual world coming, man, people are going to take that stuff and just play with it because it's, as I said, there's not a great deal of just instrumental music in this world. I mean, I'm always searching for instrumental music, and trust me, there's not a lot of it around. So I'm just curious to know your thoughts on how you feel about it. So if someone wants to do it put something up on YouTube, are they going to get flagged by this, or I'm just interested in your thoughts.
What do you mean flagged?
Well, for instance, no, I meant in the sense I'm saying, if someone was to do that, would that be something you would follow through and say, oh no, and follow it through and say you're using my my music and my or is that something I don't know. I mean, I say this because as we all know, we've all come into situations where we've particularly been I'm in flagged on YouTube and stuff for playing tracks in the background, and sometimes bands take it up, other bands just leave it. I mean, I just wonder what your thought process on this, particularly as I said, because someone will want to take that what you've done and actually do visuals, and I'm fascinating to know what your perspective on that is.
The visuals is a touchy one. I mean, even with the music, I think I said something to Rob in the beginning, because I'm very weary about having, just sort of sending somebody my music and being like, yeah, go ahead and put your words and your thoughts on top of it. Give me credit for the music. I don't know what the fuck you're gonna say. You could, and I think I said that to Rob in the beginning. I might have said something about like, I don't even know what I would have said, but it was just, you don't want to be associated with anybody advocating something that you feel nobody should be advocating. So, um, I think I might have put like some sort of disclaimer on it like that. Like, and mind you, I had like very little discussions with Rob at this point. So it was like, oh shit, wait a minute. I don't know, life is people. You don't know what the fuck people are going to do. You don't know what they're going to say. Um, but no, if somebody did visuals, my initial reaction would just be like, that is cool. Like, that's awesome. I can't wait to watch that. And then I'd watch it, and I feel like I'm one of the last people to ever be offended at something. And as long as I don't know if I feel like they made it as some sort of like malicious attack on somebody or something, don't know how I would feel about that because even in my own strong personal opinions of some candidates over here in the U.S. Far be it for me to just like come out and say, all these harsh, negative things that everybody else can. I mean, we can all say them. I mean, we all know it's true. Me just coming out there and screaming it loud doesn't really make any sort of difference about that. So, I don't know. As long as people, I guess, aren't trying to take my stuff and be, I don't know. I guess as long as they're not going to propagandize it,
Well,
it's all good.
I was about to say, man, I think your chances of either the Hillary campaign or the Trump campaign coming along and finding your music, and I'm watching the next Trump or Clinton advert, and it's like playing your stuff. I don't think that's going to happen. But man, yeah, okay, it's a fascinating
But that's what
perspective.
I mean. A lot of have you seen all the different groups that have had to come out and tell Trump or Hillary like, hey, don't use my music, like what are you doing? Like, what makes you think you can just, take my song and bump it at one of your rallies? Like, no. um, but it's and once again, that's I think, for for the most part, I don't think bands are really going to care about things like that until somebody comes along that they, really, really, really disagree with, and they're just like, no, like I'm sorry, I made this. It is what it is. No, you cannot use it. You didn't make it. You can't just do whatever you want with it. But yeah, other than that, I'd pretty much be all for it. Um, I did write stuff every time I sent Rob a beat saying, I do hereby give you consent to use this, et cetera, et cetera. And, if somebody wanted to like take the album and make their own thing with it, I would tell them. For this specific one, I'd be like, no, absolutely not. Like I'm sorry, you fucking can't. Like this was made for somebody else. I went to him after it was done and said, hey, I want to, what would your feelings be if I released this as a solo instrumental album? Because I made them for him. I'm not gonna, take the music that I made for him and then just like completely make it public without asking him. That's the person that I am. It's about respect. Life is people. You got to respect that shit. And he totally respected it right away and was like, that's awesome. Go ahead and do it. He was with it every step of the way. We've pretty much been, seeing eye to eye on most of the things. And yeah, if somebody wants to do something with it, let them. Just don't, no propaganda.
So you kind of alluded to it that obviously this is being edited from a larger piece of pieces of tracks and work you've got. So again, I mean, is this something you're going to sort of carry on as a pathway? I mean, do you think you're going to be, this is, maybe the first of many sort of collaborations with Rob, or do you think this is just a one-off? I mean, because you mentioned you've got a lot of work and effort there, and it seems to be, a quite, from someone who's known you as long as I have, my man, you seem to be in a very happy place, and you've actually found someone you're collaborating well that's not, for want of a better word, man, bugging you about, because I know from afar how many times people have messaged you about, and it's nice to sort of see you as a, actually sort of bouncing. You found somewhat an energy you can bounce on, and I hope, and that's my plea, man. I hope that this is something that you continue forward into the future and make more of these albums, because, as I say, I think we need more instrumental stuff in this world, not less. There's too many voices in this world, man. Everyone's got an opinion. Everyone's got a voice.
I mean, like I said with the Thumnobulist album, that's already in the works. Which, a lot of these albums that I'm working on musically, pretty much anything I do, I don't know. Rarely do I open up like a blank sheet, brand new project in like my DAW, my digital audio workstation. I usually don't just go file new and just start blank. Like, I have so much stuff in the backlog that uh, actually I can do. Since I'm here, I can actually tell you how many I have. Holy Christ. Okay, no, that was including those that were done. All right, it was at like 800 something. Okay, 300 through about 384. Jesus, that still seems like a lot. Oh, it's got that stuff on it. Okay, yeah. Well, there's at least like 300 some, old projects that I've worked on that have not been released. So that's kind of sad. That's quite a bit of work. But oh, what was I gonna say? But I mean, that's how I come about doing it. Is basically I'll start by going through the backlog, seeing what I have, because I love my backlog. I think there's so much time and effort put into a lot of that stuff. Um, that it's good to go through, and then like I said, you can find it, you can pick out something. So I sent so many to Rob, and he ended up taking a good chunk of my you know whoa, but he took some of the a good chunk of the older stuff that I had, and I revamped it, I made it new for 2016, and glad to get it done and get some of those out there, and just hear the music that I have known for 5, 6, 7, 8 years, and now finally it's getting out there. But one of the songs, what was it, the second song, "Growing Vines Like Veins," that that was actually from like the days of Bad Ideas when I was doing the soundtrack for that. And basically it didn't have any of the drums. It didn't have anything. All I had for it was that beginning opening synth part, where it just kind of sounds like a soundscape of. I'd have to go back and look and see how many different instruments it is, but the song opens with about 20 seconds of just like some instrumental synths like blending into each other, and there was at least 4 or 5 of them playing at the same time, maybe 2 in the beginning or like 3 at the end, and then it like all different ones, and then I just blended them into each other, and it just made this great soundscape. I had it for the Bad Idea soundtrack. I was like, man, if I need that one sort of wispy mystical synth sound, like I have that, so I can put that in Bad Ideas and uh, do it that way. Well, it never actually got used, but I still had it, and I would go through it, or I'd go through my songs if I wanted to work on something. That one would come up, and I'd play it, I'd hear it, and I'd be like, oh yeah, that one's pretty sweet. Like, I'm just gonna leave that one alone for now. I guess at some point I went in and like threw some drums on it, or I started throwing. I think I put bongos on it, but they were different bongos than what's on it now. And I had sent. The first ones I think I really hated, and then I tried to do it a second time, and then I sent it to Rob, and he as one of the demos, and he liked it as one of the demos. But then I think when I went to work on it, I told him like, yeah, I'm totally gonna change those bongos around. Like they sound like shit. Like I don't even know why I sent you that. And but yeah, I mean, lots of work goes into it. Stuff from years ago. It's just the matter of having the backlog and being able to see your work, improve on it. Yeah, I don't know.
No, on this, I mean, the other one, I'm really fascinated to hear your thoughts on how the creative process, because you mentioned earlier on about how people, particularly beat makers and stuff, maybe them don't really play instruments. When you do play instruments, like you mentioned, you play piano. I love playing piano, man. And before you know it, you're going off, and it's exactly the thing you spoke upon, where you're drifting off, and you're like, oh wow, I've spent an hour playing the piano, and I don't even know where I got now. You can go back because there's certain tunes you almost like go back to yourself and play. But my question to you, given the context of what I've just said, is how do you go from having an instrumental and push that into a piece of work that's like maybe under 5 minutes or 10 minutes? I mean, how does that work? How do you do that? I mean, to me, I think that must be the most difficult thing to do, because I mean, from an artist's perspective, okay, it's all and writers, you're always used to cutting and editing. That's great, but with an instrumental piece of work, it's almost like, how do you put the brakes on either end, that particularly when you haven't got lyrics that usually kind of hold a song into place? You think, okay, we've got a certain amount of stuff, but so how did you sort of come about doing the length of the track? Was that your concept, or was that Rob's concept? Was that something you discussed, or did it just naturally happen?
Well, my music. I usually do, longer type tracks, which are, um, in my opinion, I think they usually contain about three different tracks in. It'll be three tracks in one, and so, and I don't know. That's just how music works for me. When I hear somebody who's like, "Oh, I made a beat," and then you listen to it, and you could have they could have stopped after 90 seconds because you're like you're not after those 90 seconds you aren't going anywhere with it. Like you're just keeping it the same. You're literally playing the same instruments. I mean, it literally is just the same thing looped over and over again, and that to me is bullshit. And that is when it needs the rapper on it, because then it's more about the vocals, because obviously a whole lot of work wasn't put into that beat. But um yeah, so Rob knew that I made longer tracks, which he was all about longer tracks. I think he might even have wanted some of the tracks longer. And I think at one point he said mentioned something about like he didn't care if a song was 8 minutes long or 7 minutes long. And um so once again, making the cinematic music, it's like, well, that's great. Let's roll with it. And the whole idea with a lot of the composition of the songs was, um, as soon as I get bored of hearing, this certain loop, or it's instrumental music. So if I start to get bored, if I'm listening to this loop play and 10 seconds into it, I'm like, okay, this needs to change. Fucking A, I'm gonna go in there and change it. And you always want to leave the audience wanting more. That's one of the great things about the tracks is you can listen to them so many times, because it isn't just the same repetitiveness over and over again. There's a lot of change ups, a lot of different things going on, different instruments, different. Um, I think some of them even like switched pitches as the song went on. Like it changed like to a different pitch, and obviously I had to say I think they did, because at a certain point it just really doesn't matter to me when I'm making music and something like that. It's gonna flow into something. It's gonna flow into it, and I'm just there to sort of help it along, add little things here and there to help it do that. But I don't know. Really, I guess to answer your question, to sum it up, I would say as soon as I start to get bored, I start to play around with things and switch it up. And I don't know. As soon as like I don't know, once it gets through like the intro and then like at least one verse and then a chorus, I'm usually set on that, and I'm like, don't want to hear. I really don't want to hear that melody again. Now, some of the songs for the album he wanted to have guest appearances on, And so, it was kind of like, well, we want to have, you know, sort of a more standard composition, but at the same time, I wanted to give him something different than that. So the what is it? So while the song might start with the intro, goes into a verse, goes into a chorus. I really tried not repeating it, or just trying to have it come off in a different way that it didn't sound like it was repeating itself, or that you didn't even get bored with it. You were actually sort of happy because you were like, that was really cool in the beginning, and then it kind of ended, and I wish it had gone longer, but then he brought it back in the middle after the first chorus. Or sometimes, when it comes to the second chorus, I'll just switch things up and I'll start layering the instruments differently, or taking things out, putting things in. I don't know. What was it? I forget. I think it was a filmmaker. I can't remember who, but somebody said something like, "You're never really done until you're finished pulling things away from it." Like, so basically, as the artist, you sort of build and build, and you keep adding and adding and adding and adding, and then when you're done, when you start pulling those things away, when you start saying, this is a little bit too much here. Like, we don't need this. Like, you're refining it, you're fine tuning it. But that's after a while, the album sort of became like that. Things were done. I started pulling things away from it, trying not to make it too far out, because once again, somebody was going to be rapping over it. So, but no, there's so many solos on there, and a lot of like just me playing the instruments, that it takes on a whole life of its own. And even Psy Demon from the Ceiling Demons said that about the synth at the end of the first song. He said, that synth really takes on a life of its own, and I mean, it really does. It's just it feels like this, I don't know, crazy character that's just sort of bouncing all over the place. And I don't know, it's music. I have fun doing it. Thank you.
Well, I mean, you kind of alluded to when you were just saying there, my man. I mean, I must have about, I don't know how many tracks of yours I've got, because it's like I can testify this to you. You're always, it's like one a week. I'm getting another track, another track, another track. It's like you just creative machine, man. So what I'm, again, you alluded to this again, and I mean, I know you've got many projects, like all of us have got many things on the go at the moment. But again, so how you mentioned the ones you're doing with Weekhead and Thumber Lister and stuff. Now, how far are they down the line, and how far are they getting to completion? Because it's one of the things I get to talk to you, and we're very similar minded on this one. We always have a million things going, but it's the war of art is actually trying to, like you just said, it's getting the things to completion and pushing them out the door. Because if not, you just end up being a collector, and you just end up hoarding and hoarding and hoarding, which is, it's not good for anybody, especially us as creative.
Um. So, what specifically is your question?
So I'm asking really, so how far down the line are you going with? Yeah, are you with Number List, Thumber Lister and Weekhead stuff? I
Okay.
mean, because I'm saying, are they any nearer to being released and dropped on this world so we can actually get to hear this?
I don't know. It's even this album. Okay, so I had made the instrumentals. I sent them to Rob. He was happy with them, and I said, okay, I'm gonna make this instrumental album out of them. Um, Even then, I was still going back and mixing and mastering all of them. Literally every song on Where the Sun Meets the Land, up until an hour before things got posted. I think first it was posted on YouTube, and um, they were videos, so obviously that took a while to do, just to upload those. And up until I put out the music video, because I was working on the mastering of these, and I was like, God damn it, I just want to fucking get this shit done. And every time I would listen to a song, I'm a perfectionist, so every time I would listen to one, I'm like, oh, like, this needs to be done, this needs to be done. I can do this better, I can do this better. And I was even talking to Rob the whole time, telling him like, hey man, like, I'm just letting you know, like, I'm like going through and basically remastering all of these. And I was like, I'm gonna send you all the copies, just as like an update as to what I've already done for you, um, because they were his, so if anyone gets them, it should be him. But so I put out the video, and as I was putting it up, I was like, I gotta put some sort of, I guess, release date or something for, the album, and I can be like, well, this is the video. It's for the new album. The album's coming out this day, and the video went up on a Friday, and I don't know, I was thinking about maybe Monday or Tuesday, and then I was like, oh, I really don't even know if I could do that. I was like, Friday. I was like, 1 week. I'll give myself 1 week to get off my fucking duff and do it. And yeah, I was still mixing and mastering it up until like an hour before it came out because I was still just that nitpicky about it. Um, but I think it definitely does sound so much better, and I think it really helped, especially with the bringing it together as a whole, which is what were some of the changes that I wanted to make. So I would hear one song and I would be like, you know what, this one actually sounds pretty perfect. I'm going to do like a little bit of this. I'm going to turn the volume up. We'll be good. And then I would go to the next song, and some of the frequencies would seem off, a little high, a little too low, or too much low here, too much high there, and it didn't sit well with the entire thing. And so that's why when I go through and I listen to this album, feel like I feel like it just flows better because it doesn't have those off frequencies. Everything seems to fit in its place perfectly. I'm very glad I got that done. But that's what I've been doing with Thumbnobulist, which you know. And I mean, all those tracks are done, except for my final bitchiness of getting the EQs right, making the whole thing sound great as a whole. With Wighead, well, so with Thumbnobulist, I couldn't tell you. I can send you some tracks though if you want. But I mean, I have no idea how far off that is. Yeah, I don't even want to give a time period. I'm not putting myself on a time crunch again. All right, next Friday. You twisted my arm, Tim. Next Friday, it's coming out.
Well, I mentioned this. I mentioned this because I don't know. I maybe just get quite real on this, but I think it's always good to remind ourselves that I speak only for myself as an artist here. Is that sometimes we can get so lost in our creations and what we're involved in, what we're doing, we forget that we have to put them out. And yeah, that's one thing. But man, we're all mortal, and I have to say this. Because I don't know, Ryan. As you know, our times are short, and that's why I say get this stuff out because, dude, I mean, it's all there, and once you're gone, it's great. It's going to be left to loads of people to go through your collections and stuff. But man, I need to hear. I say this because I really mean this in a real way because I think. I get frustrated at times when you hear people's back catalogs and stuff. You think, why don't they just get them out at the time, man? And I know it's the element of us creative because, like you said, we love to get involved and we you know what I mean. But we've got to learn to push things out. So yeah, that's why I'm always pushing you in private and stuff because it's like, man, we're mortal. We've only got a short time, and I'm so keen to get this stuff out into the world and listen to it because I don't want it being just it's just me and a few friends listening to this. I think the world deserves to listen to this stuff, man.
No, but at the same time, I think a lot of artists do have stuff like that. They always want we create and we do so many things, and we only want the best to go out there. And I have so many things that I think are the best, but they, like bad ideas, where bad ideas from conception to death was like something like 4 years, and that was literally every day. And there wasn't a moment where I wasn't thinking of what I needed to do to get the fucking thing done. And that's just kind of, I don't know, that one I knew was going to take 4 years every day, hardcore. I'd put my money into it. And really, I think that was sort of it. I was like, I put my money into it. Now all I have to do is put the time into it. And that's what really sort of made me get off my ass, was that I had already put the money into it. So, um, but no, I love doing so much that it's so hard to just put something in, or put straight up like maybe 4 or 5 months work into just like trying to do one thing. Or so like there's the Graffiti Falls audiobook that I've been working on for years now, and it's the mixing of that just takes forever because I'm trying to get everything so perfect. And the thing is when I do have it perfect and I hear it, I'm like, man, that is awesome. Like nothing beats that. Like there's no way I can half-ass it after seeing that or hearing that. Like same thing with my writing, or same thing with you know anything I do on Photoshop or whatever. You're putting so much work into it. Once you see, or you hear, or you I don't know, read, what your best work sounds like, feels like, what it is, I can't settle for anything less. Um so what, even that so I guess did you listen to the song I sent you this morning?
The Ovaltine one, yes, my man. More Ovaltine, please. Yeah.
More Ovaltine, please. Yeah, it's
I
that is
actually,
some that
I was going to say, sorry, I didn't realise that Ovaltine was a transnational drink, unless we got completely different cross wires on what we think Ovaltine is.
Ovaltine is over here is like the powdered chocolate.
Mm.
Yeah, but even then, it was that song is you hear it and it's I don't know, it's weird. It sounds to me it sounds really good. I really really like it, but there's it's a kick and a snare. It's literally just doom 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 doom, and that is the beat. And then there's me just rapping and being extremely goofy. And I was talking to Rob. I sent it to Rob last night too, and he was asking about it, and I was telling him how it was just like a complete experiment. And I was like, some of the lines in there, the lines in that song, I would never use. I would never write some of that shit down. What did I say? I was like, clam bacon, yo, pancakes, damn straight, no handbrakes. I'm like, I would never write something like that down. I would never talk about pancakes. And then I was like, Tiger Blood, Charlie Sheen, mixed vodka with Ovaltine. Like, and then as I was writing it, I was like, man, I gotta have that sample of the commercial right there, of the kids going, more Ovaltine, please. And like that is such a just total goof around song for me. But at the same time, it does sound really good. I really really do like it, but it's I don't know. That's something to me that's just like a standalone. Like if I was gonna make an album that sort of like just had tracks, that would be a great track on there. But I like to make pieces as a whole. I like to make concept albums, which not who makes concept albums anymore? Which is what really I liked about Rob when he was saying that he wanted the whole instrumentals to flow together, because who does that? And I think only somebody who knows how to play instruments could do that. Could actually flow these instruments together and just fuse two pieces of music, which like I said, that's what I was already doing with the tracks in general. So just to combine them like that, like, yeah, no big deal, we'll figure it out. It's not impossible.
Yeah, but I agree with you, my friend. And do you know what I mean? I've always said this. I'm not overly one for a lot of jazz music, but when you go to a jazz band live and you're seeing a decent jazz band, I mean, like it taps into what you just said. There's this whole free expression going on, and they can all play their instruments. And this is one of the things it goes taps in. Maybe full circle about this whole conversation. There's none of this. There's almost like no strive or no kind of incentive for people to actually learn and pick up instruments because it's so easy. You can just, it's all there. So there's no incentive to say, oh, I'm going to sit and learn the piano. And it's not, you're not going to be able to play the piano in 2 minutes. It's going to take you, say, more effort and, years and years of getting it, to you've perfected the instrument. But with what's happening with this, with people not losing this ability to play three instruments, we're losing what you just said quite eruditely. This whole idea of bouncing ideas, playing with things, seeing how they develop, and everything's becoming this formulated into a thing. So I think it's great, man. I think like you say, when you find someone you can, you've obviously got some synergy with, and they've got some sort of musical ability about them, man. You hold on to that and you cling on to that like it's a life raft, man. You know what I mean? Because they're rarities to find.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's you can. I don't know. It just bothers me how many people don't. How many people who make music don't play or can't play instruments? I'm not gonna say I'm the first one to be the best at playing any sort of instrument, but once again, like I said earlier, it was the way to manipulate it. So at the end of um, what was the See, this is how like new and everything this album is to me that like I don't even remember all the song names. I don't. Uh, so the one I had the video for, "Sleep Above the Fog," and like I said, they went through so many name changes that yeah. I was just thinking the song called "A Trail Made with Forks." Like even that one, there was I think I might have had one that said "Sporks," or like it might have been called "A Fork in the Trail" or something like that. And the wordplay, everything just got switched around word by word, little tiny stuff. So, but anyway, so like "Asleep Above the Fog," that had clearly a guitar solo at the end. Although clearly it was not played on a guitar. I did not play that on a guitar. That was played on a keyboard, but sounds like a guitar. And that's being able to. Would I have been able to do that on a guitar? I'm sure I could have. I could have played it. Basically, what I did is I just sort of laid out the end of the song on my digital audio workstation. Just had it laid out so it would play like 2 minutes, like straight, nonstop, just that one part over and over. And then I would just sit there and play over top of it. And it was recording everything that I was playing over top of it. And then I had, maybe a minute and a half I probably played for. And then I just sort of stopped and I was like, you know what? I think I got enough there. And you just go back and you edit it and you rework it. And that's one of the great things about where MIDI is, where technology is now is and it does sound kind of shitty, but you don't have to like just record yourself playing guitar on a shitty tape player and keep you know you don't have to keep hitting rewind and then like writing out your sheet music and then excuse me cutting to another part and then writing down that part and trying to like learn all of that and whatever. Like no, you can actually just see it on your screen, everything that you're playing. You can edit it, you can do whatever, place it wherever you want, cut stuff out, mix it all together. And I'm not ever planning on playing it live, so don't really need to learn how to play it live. It's just one of those things of jamming. You're playing on the instrument, you're jamming. It all worked out, and I know enough. I know enough about the guitar, how to play the guitar, what the guitar does, to be able to manipulate a keyboard to sound like a guitar. It's that's another part of where the knowledge of music comes from. And people are, I don't know, I think some people just remember, I don't know, a lot of the older hip hop that had either funk samples in it or like some of the old Dr. Dre stuff that had like the synthesizer going over it or whatever. And the worst thing about that is those a lot of those specific synthesizers couldn't play more than one key at a time. That's just a fact. They only could play one note at a time. So that is why you hear like, a real sort of basic, the old Dr. Dre, like, that's literally one dude going like this, like, and, he was doing that because he could only play one note at a time on a synthesizer. But, now, with digital audio workstation, there's so many synthesizers that you can play more than one note at a time. Like we're not stuck in the 70s. We can do this. But people don't. It's 2016 and people are still going and they're getting they get away with it and people buy that shit and you can some of these people charge ridiculous amounts of money and it's laughable. I don't know. But I mean, if you're gonna play music, know about fucking music. Like,
Hmm.
learn about like you should listen to every style. You should be able to pick out the differences between styles. You should be able to talk about um I don't know. Just if something's good, you should be able to, if you like a certain music and you're into music, you should be able to break it down into the components that you like and be able to say why you like it, why you find it to be good, not just like it's a banger. Like
Hmm.
that doesn't work for me. Like like what is it that you like about this, Miley Cyrus song? Is it the repetitiveness of it? Is it your click drum whistle pattern that's going like what they can't break it down. They like it as a whole. They like how the way it sounds. It's like you said, it's instantaneous. It's boom. It's in your face. There's no lead ups. There's no die outs. There's no I don't know, long drawn out bridges. This is
Yeah,
what I do.
and I think you've hit the nail on the head there because it's sometimes. I mean, I'll give you a great example. I know quite a few sports people who quite get to a really good level, and they don't like the game they play. It's just like it's refreshing. So there's no inherent thing about you got to love what you're doing. It's kind of like, but like you said, the key is knowing what you're doing. So if you're into music, you don't got to like it. You may go, oh, I can't, but hey, if that's what you're doing and that's what you've got your passion is, you haven't got to like the particular music, but understand it. Same with artwork. You can't just go up there and just chuck some paint on. You've got to understand what the whole process is about. Maybe not don't like it. I mean, hey, I've studied many artists, and then I haven't got to go, oh, okay, I've got to love all their artwork and sit there and talk all this bollocks about how their strokes and all their visions and stuff. No, it's just, but like you said, it's this element of, which is the big point, Ryan. It's just it's generally in our culture we've lost the ability to put the hours in because we live in this world, and we've talked about it many times, where everything's got to be instant, and we live in this sludge world, and so that sells because it works because it's been repeated and repeated and repeated. But the thing is, as much as it works, maybe it worked for the last 20 years, that will change because it's only certain long. We as a human species, intrinsically we like different things. The moment we're in this world where stuff like yours isn't going to get played in the mainstream, but people are just getting, I swear, man, as much as works, people are going to get, they're going to flip, and I think the flip will be instant. Just like when, you know, man, the 70s. I mean, you mentioned earlier on, the 70s and 80s were full of all these overblown, power rock bands or disco and stuff, and then bang, along came, the metal scene, and along came hip hop and switched the whole thing around. And that's where I think we're going to go to now, because, like you said, man, how I don't know, maybe we'd be doing a Life is People in 10 years' time, and it'll still be will still be the inherently number one. But I pray with a fervent prayer that it's not that case, man, because it's too long. That too long.
Did you just want to do that sound more than me? Did you want to
Yeah,
sing it
man.
more times than me?
Of course. It's a new theme tune for Life is People.
Life is people. Yeah, I mean, obviously we hope it's gonna die out, but I don't know. So, real musicians progress. They do different things. They experiment. They step out of their boundaries. Like fuck, look how far the Beatles went. Whether you love or hate the Beatles, like
Mm.
just in so many years they went from the cleanest cut uh sort of like schoolboy rock band, yeah, with the bowl cuts, and then how many years later, and you get Sergeant Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. That is sort of they're a prime example of just of how a band progresses and goes from playing "I wanna hold your hand" which was, sort of basic, rock song for that time period, structure, everything like that. And then next thing you know, they're, once again, Sergeant Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, or, the Yellow Submarine. You start getting to the compositions of those and all the instruments. And, before they were a four-piece band. Now, once they got into that stage, it was like, who the fuck is in this band? They got like a horn section, they got an orchestra, they got, there's a there's a keyboard player. I don't remember the Beatles playing keyboard, like, and I mean, yeah, but people don't progress like that anymore. It's very strange. I don't know, they might change their image, but usually that just means something like hair, you
Hmm.
know, like, oh, this pop star cut her hair, and she's got short hair now, and she dyed it blue. She's
Yep.
changing her name, and or you get the whole Garth Brooks, Chris Gaines thing, which was like just sort of awkward and creepy.
But don't you think this is just the reflections of a stagnant system that's in the throes of its last death breath, really? Because what we're seeing is the same stuff as if I swear, if you come back to Rome or Greeks or the French before the revolution happened, this is all the same thing. This mediocrity and stuff like that. And like you mentioned, and this is what I mean, you say you find it strange. I mean, I find it strange that we've had 8 years or longer of just unbelievably ratcheting up of politics and how our world is being ratcheted up, and we got kids that are the most docile. I mean, back in the day, man, we were talking about the saying. Back in the day, it was all like, this is why that music was coming out. The people were, like you say, whether it was the '60s and they were going like, whoa, dropout culture. Let's just, we need to form something new. Whether it was in the '80s and stuff, and people were like, no, we've got to bring down the system and bring down the man. And now we've got kids and music and everything. It's just all about, more regulation, bigger government, make it, let's take away more rights of speech. And it's like, I mean, my only hope is, dude, and this is my only hope. Whatever happens in your election this November, it's going to set the trigger off, and hopefully this be a boom in creativity, whatever way it goes. Because you know what I mean. I just hope this a trigger like it was in the '60s. It's going to be something that's going to go unleash all this, and I think that it could be a two-step process. We've got one side of the world, like I say, with politics and everything ratcheting up that way, which hopefully should draw the energy out of the creative and technology. And this is what gets me, like you were saying, we've got more tools in our hands now that people in the '60s and the '70s, if Pink Floyd had what they had now, they would be like, whoa. And they didn't. They had small little things, and they were making what they were doing now. And like you were quite rightly saying, we've got all the tools and all the ability now, and we're doing it. But it doesn't mean to say what I'm trying to say. The great thing is the tools are there. It's just waiting for that. I don't know, that the flash moment, the 100th monkey. It's just waiting for something to happen. And I don't know. I mean, I just sort of think maybe what's going to happen in your part of the world, in the elections, that maybe the trigger to get that off going. If not, who knows? If you don't, if what happens, this is what gets me. If what has happened in the last 10 years hasn't made the creative yet more creative, and it's just made them more bland and crap. It's like, well, what more do they need, man? I mean, what more do people, the creative, need? How much more of a push? Because like you said, in the '60s, all it was, okay, we're going from this generation to that generation. There was that little bit, and then bang. They didn't need much. What's holding us back? What is it? What is it in our culture that's holding us back? I don't understand, because we've got all the tools, all the expression, more communication, and yet, like you said, we're still basically, in essence, still doing the Beatles with a bowl cut.
Oh, I mean, yeah. Just think of, as far as what you said as, if Pink Floyd had the technology we had now, like, just think of any movement throughout history if they had the technology that we had now. It's, um, I mean, so much could have been done because they were already doing so much, and now we're really sort of not. One of the candidates from the Green Party, Jill Stein, I saw part of her town hall, and one of her things was like, she basically wanted to cancel student loans or cancel out student debt. Basically, just be like, oh, like these kids went to college and they owe these colleges money. Well, we're just gonna cancel all that. Like, how much fucking lazier can you get than being like, oh, like you know, you don't like you wanted to fight for your you know, not having to pay these student loans, your tuition was too high. Well, like, you know what, it's okay, just don't worry about it. We're just gonna, you know, cut that down, and now you don't have to fight, you don't have to stick up for anything because you just got free college. And at the same time, like, we're just gonna, you know, give free money, you know, give free tuition to people that you know, it was just like the housing crash that we had, you know, not so, that many years ago over here. Like, you know, people, you know, taking on shit that they can't pay for. Like, hey, like I have zero debt in my name. I have a great credit score. Like, it's honestly not that hard. You know why? You don't buy shit you can't afford.
Hmm.
But you know what? That's the people. They're charging their cards and they're going swipe, and you know, it's just that easy. I don't have to fight for anything anymore. You know, like
But
you know,
isn't that?
I'm sure, you know, 30 years ago, I'm sure like the easiest things used to probably be like a fucking hassle. You
Hmm.
know, and now we don't we don't have that many hassles. I mean, we really don't. Like, but I mean, people will still bitch, you know, their first world problems, but you know, we don't have those sort of hassles anymore. And so, I don't know, as you know, as much as we can connect and as much as the world can communicate, we're still sort of not. You know, we have the ability to just like, you know, go on social media and like, you know, find somebody from a different country. Oh my God, Tim's from Scotland. I'm from the U.S. Like, we've never met before, but yet here we are. Life is People. What no? What fucking episode are you on now of Life is People?
166.
Say 166.
Hmm.
Jesus, Tim. And I was, but we've done how many together? I was telling Rob the other night that I was like, yeah, I was on like the first 30 or 50. I don't know. I can't really remember anymore.
Hmm.
But you know, I was, you know, once again, like had never met in real life, but we had that capability to come together. You know, just through similar interests, uh, similar sort of political beliefs, which are, I don't know, I guess really like none. Like, it's just people can do it for themselves. That's who we are. People can do it for themselves type people. You know, we do music. We yeah, you paint, you write, you do all sorts of awesome stuff. I do all sorts of awesome stuff. Somehow we came together on the internet. I don't know many people. I don't know anybody. I think that actually just sort of knows somebody. Like, oh yeah, I just like randomly know this person through social media, and yeah, we just like talk sometimes and hang out, and like we do have that capability, but people still don't do it. Like,
Hmm.
I mean, it's 2016. I don't even know my neighbors, most of them
Hmm.
anyway. I did when I was little, not anymore though.
Yep.
And you know, I think that goes for a lot of people. We have the ability more than ever to communicate, but more than ever, we're sort of just as closed off as we've ever been. And yeah, and I don't know, there should, especially with the movements. You know, so many movements are going on right now. Not, I mean, throughout the world, but at the same time, you know, just as locally, and it still feels like there's no real communication between anybody.
Yep. That's because I mean the way I vision this is, you know, we've got technology is a neutral, you know, but like you said, the social media at the moment is just being used as anything else. As I mean, I talked about it many times in private. You know, it's just a bunch of kids, and they're just picking up and just running around the playground, shouting at each and screaming at each other, and my team, your team, and it's all. But you know, but the technology in itself is a neutral. And what's missing at the world at the moment, all that noise, and I mean, that's what I'm saying. That's why I can never be negative or positive about it, because as much as we can, you know, we can talk about all the negatives of social media, yeah. But in the back of it, you know, out of this connections has come what you've done with Wighead. There's so many collaborations that come. But the trouble is, it's all being lost in this world of noise, and that's where I think it's always going to break down to. Of like you just said, we don't have to maybe meet each other physically, but it's basically keeping the bonds you get and forming them and keeping them strong. Right? It's like building our own tribe, and that's what we've got to learn to do in this world. We've got to go, okay, we've got the great ability to be in a virtual tribe, but we've got to be looking after each other and not just doing, something that we both get frustrated for. And I know this is something I think, I maybe before we wrap this up, I think it's just the one thing that people really don't understand if they're not in the creative element, and from the angle we come from, it's so frustrating that we put so much of our effort in and so much of our time, and because we just generally, like you said, we're very, the more creative people you get, they tend to be, will love to dive into projects and do stuff, but man, and this is one of the things that I'm really, really reflecting on, a lot recently. Is like we've all got to stop and be quite, quite disciplined as creative people, and say, no, I'm no longer going to give my time and energy away to people who are just going to waste it, because as I say, man, we our time is precious, and like I say, we've got to spend our energy forming these networks and people we've got, rather than just thinking, oh, okay, someone along comes along, I'll throw them all that way, because what happens is, 2 years, and I mean, it's a perfect example. We've been doing this nearly 2 years in Cyphers People, and we both had our time and energy wasted by different projects. We've done stuff and they've never been used and stuff like this. But at the end of the day, it's not what's important. It's like is to think when you collaborate and stuff. And this is what these tools are great for. And it's like you said, above all, it always comes down to, it's not be funny, but humans, and life is people, and that is what connects. It's the human interaction, and so it's both ways. Like I said, man, I haven't got too long tonight, man. It's not one of our usual 3.5, 4 hour. Let's talk about the world simulation theories, man. I wanted to concentrate on the album, man. And so before I do crash this up, man, I'm going to play it on the track. But where can people find the album? I know it's on YouTube and stuff like that. And we'll just tell people where they can reach out and where they can find you if they want to find you.
You can find the album on YouTube. My channel is it's got the picture of the crying horse. It's a cartoon picture of a crying horse. The channel name is I believe just Ryan Martin. But yeah, you can look up Deadbeat, Where the Sun Meets the Land on YouTube. You can look that up on SoundCloud. I'm also on SoundCloud. The Bandcamp is the number one deadbeat.bandcamp.com. The album can be downloaded there. It's free as always. You can find me on Twitter and Twitter. I am at Bad Ideas Movie. That's Bad Ideas Movie. And then make sure you check out and look for Rob Korinsky. I hope I'm saying that right. If I'm not, I'm sorry, Rob. But ROBKORENSKY. Find him on YouTube, Twitter. That's where I found him on Twitter. Or yeah, if you're having trouble finding him, just find me on Twitter at Bad Ideas Movie, and then I can find Rob on Twitter at something. I don't know. I can't tell you right now.
Well, perfect,
Right, I
man.
think that's good.
Well, as we discussed before we went live, and this is by your request, we're going to play out with. So while I'm sort of like queuing this up, man, and we're gonna play out with "And We Woke with the Fire." Now, what particularly made you choose this track to play out with? And while I'm queuing it up, I'll let you do the intro. Then we're finishing on that.
Really, I think that song sort of speaks for the whole album. And if I was to sum up the whole album in one, it would be that song. And for some reason, right away, I think I had a different song in mind for the first track. And somehow, as soon as that song came on, as I was going through it, I was like, okay, that's got to be the first one. I mean, it had to be, because yeah, like I said, it sort of summed up everything for me as far as what I wanted the whole album to be. And I thought it was great to have the first song do that, and then you have the rest of the album to listen to after that. You sort of get I don't know. I think it's the whole spectrum. You get the whole idea. So that's why I picked that one. Get that dog in there. Hey, puppy. What are you doing, Tim? The sound keeps cutting in and out. I'm watching it live on YouTube. Too funny. I can't hear anything, Tim. Are you playing the song still playing? Oh, there it is.